of significant things happened while we lived in Whitefish that affected the entire family. I'd been having back pains and abdominal pains, which were attributed to the fact that my uterus was tipped and pressing on nerves in my back. Each time the doctor would try to put it up, it would slip back down again. And he finally decided that it would be wise for me to have a hysterectomy. So at age 24, I did have a hysterectomy. I think the two younger children were farmed out this time, but that your dad kept you at home. And you probably didn't get total attention because he felt that you could take care of yourself while he went out and did calls and this kind of thing. Also, by then he may have had that little office downtown. He never did like the idea of having a study in the house, feeling that parishioners wouldn't come by and see him privately because the entire family would know he was there, the person was there. So he had rented a little room over a shop down in the center of town, and this room hadn't any entrance to it. The door just went right out into the into the thin air. So they'd had to build a stairway up for him to get in. But I remember he broadcast some sermons from that little office up there, and also another time somebody had broken into it and stole something but had dropped their wallet as they were getting away, so that they had caught the person. At any rate, I think probably you were left to your own devices a good deal of the time while I was in the hospital. And then when I got home, they were able to find somebody to come in a few hours a day and fix our meals for us. And this young woman liked a lot of seasoning in the food, and I remember she put so much pepper in everything that you kids really didn't want to eat it. You were used to, much blander cooking. I had a vertical incision for the hysterectomy, which went all the way from the tummy button clear down as far as you could go. And I was sure disappointed when I discovered that the doctor had done the very same thing to Cherry, because it cuts across the musculature, and it's very difficult to get the strength back in those stomach muscles. They removed all of one ovary and part of another one, and the doctor was of the opinion that the part of the ovary that he left in, would eventually take over the manufacture of enough hormone to meet my needs. So when a year later I was really struck with a partial blindness in one eye and the severest migraine headaches that I can imagine anybody having. And they didn't seem to be able to find out what was causing them. And I remember so distinctly one morning getting ready for church, and all of a sudden, total blackness on one half of my field of vision in the right eye. Grandpa and Grandma Pease had come from Indiana on their Grandpa Pease's first trip west at about the time that these migraines hit me. And I remember, wanting to be a good hostess and wanting to help them enjoy their visit, and being in such horrible pain that I would bury my face in the couch and clench my fists and just beat on the couch. Grandma Pease had been to visit in California twice, so she was quite the world traveler, but Grandpa Pease had never been out of the Midwest. And I remember going down to the train to meet them, and they were so impressed by the mountains and the fact that the map had not shown all those turns in the railroad track. And here they had twisted back and forth through the mountains, whereas the map had shown it as being a straight shot. Your grandpa had his 80th birthday in Whitefish, and I remember having a birthday cake for him. Do you remember Grandpa Pease? He was such a cute little guy with his little mustache. He was a very religious person who loved to sing the hymns, and he used to write about the evils of alcohol. Grandma Pease looked a lot like your father and was sort of round-shouldered like your father was. They were both really nice people. As your grandmother got older and really wasn't feeling too well, she began to do a lot of complaining. But at the time of which I'm speaking, she was a very sweet-natured woman. I remember we took a ride, whether we had a car then or were using somebody else's, I don't remember. Probably was still the old Hupmobile. Anyway, we took Grandpa and Grandma for a ride up into Glacier Park. And the road is, quite twisty and threads its way along the face of the mountain. Grandpa Pease was sitting on the side, on the outer edge of the road. And that man didn't hardly say a word. He was absolutely scared speechless. He'd look out and down that cliffside, and he was as white as a sheet. I remember we took a picnic lunch with us, and when we stopped at the picnic ground to eat, these goats came up. And we thought they were mountain goats because there are mountain goats in Glacier Park. But we didn't know what they might do to us, and we were kind of scared. So I remember we snatched up all our food and got back in the car and slammed the doors. And later, when we told people, they laughed because apparently what these animals were tame goats that had gone wild. And this was the only reason that they came down to the campground, that really mountain goats would have been much too fearful of people and stayed up on the higher elevations. The summer after Burke was born, your dad left us in Whitefish and returned to Berkeley to finish the work for his Bachelor of Divinity degree. And I remember sewing a little outfit for Burke to wear, and I think I must have made clothes for you and Cherry as well, to wear down to meet the train when he came back. And I can just see Burke in the tailor-tot stroller waiting for, all of us waiting for Daddy to come in on the train. It was during that time, too, that I learned how to mop a floor. Always your dad had done it before that, and the floor just got too dirty. I finally had to learn how to mop it. We never locked our door in Whitefish until there was a peeping Tom in the neighborhood. And this guy had walked in on a couple of women while they were alone in the house. And I remember before your father took off, getting somebody from the church to come and put a lock on the door so that I would be safe. One of the highlights of our stay in Whitefish was that trip to Indiana for your grandparents' golden wedding anniversary. I may also have some pictures of the family all together on that occasion, which you really ought to look at because it's one of those mileposts in a person's life. Uncle Bill sent me some money. I don't remember where he was at the time, but he said that if we were going to Indiana, he would like me to have a trip to visit my father's brothers and sisters that I had never seen in the East. And I don't remember how much money it was now, but he sent enough for an extension of that trip. What your dad and I did, and I'm sure Grandpa and Grandma Pease must have sent us the money for most of this, was for me to get a compartment on the train. That's an upper and lower berth.